Okay, so this is probably the second section of elasticity that you look at, income elasticity of demand, or YED. And rather than looking at how a change in the price might affect the quantity demanded, this time you're looking at how a change in income might affect the quantity demanded of a product. So again, specification objectives, you need to be able to define YED, or income elasticity of demand. You can do that either by writing the definition out or doing the equation, which I think is far simpler. You need to be able to calculate YED from given figures in the case study. You need to be able to interpret the calculations that you've made and discuss the relevance of YED, usually to businesses, but it sometimes is a wider question than that. Okay, so important question here. If your income was cut, what would you consume less of? So you're probably thinking, well, I'd try and cut back on everything, but there might be some products that you'd still need to consume the same amount of, even if your income was cut. There may be some products that you'd actually consume a little bit more of, and that might seem a little bit unusual, but when we look at YD, that should make sense. Okay, so definition here, the responsiveness of the quantity demanded to a change in income. And we're going to get, when you work out the figures, you're going to get you're going to get results, and they will either come out as income elastic, and so this is where the percentage change in the quantity demanded is sensitive to a change in income. So that means that, say if you have a 10% change in income, you're going to have a greater percentage change in the quantity demanded, so 15% change or 20% change. And the other result that you might get is that it is income inelastic. So the change in the quantity demanded is insensitive to a change in income. So your 10% change in income produces a smaller percentage change in quantity demanded, so 8% or 7%. Here's the definition, the equation, very, very similar to the PED equation, but you've changed the word price for income here. So percentage change in quantity demanded over percentage change in income. Now, the most common mistakes that students make if they're going to mess this definition up or equation up, they put percentage change in income on the top rather than the bottom of the equation. Now, the way that I remember that it should go on the bottom is I always think of that saying, money's the bottom line. So income's to do with money, so that goes on the bottom. Just as with the PED equation, percentage change in price, that always goes on the bottom. So if you kind of have that phrase in your head for the exam, you shouldn't go wrong. The second most common mistake is that students put percentage change in quantity or percentage change in demand. It's neither of those two. It's percentage change in quantity demanded. So you must get it right to get the 2 marks, and they're quite easy marks to get. Okay, so egg sandwiches again. So we're going to imagine that average incomes have changed from £100 a week to £90 a week. So that would be a 10% change, sorry, not 10%, a £10 change in income. And it's gone down, so it's a negative change in your income over the original, which was 100, and that gives you minus 10% change. The quantity demanded has changed from 200 to 250, a bit of an odd result at this stage, but it will make sense later on. So that is a change of 50 in quantity over the original quantity demanded, which was 200, which gives 25% change in the quantity demanded. So when we put those figures in, 25% over minus 10%, we're going to get a YED figure of minus 2.5. Now, because it starts with a number, just as with PED, if anything starts with a number, regardless of whether it's negative or positive, if it starts with an integer, that means it's elastic. So that means that the quantity demanded is sensitive to a change in income. Now, whereas with PED, I said, they'll always come out negative, so you can either put the negative on or you don't need to put the negative on. It really doesn't make a difference. With YED, it's completely different. You have to make sure that you've worked out whether this is a positive figure or a negative figure, because it's going to give you a little bit more additional information about this number that you've calculated. Okay, so because we've got a fall in income, so minus, and we've got an increase in the quantity demanded, we know that it's a positive divided by a negative, which comes out as a negative. Okay, and any figure that comes out negative is what we call an inferior product. Now, if you go back to your demand presentation, you can see the definition of an inferior product is one where income increases, demand for that product would decrease. and when income decreases, demand for that product would increase. And the reason is because if income increases and demand decreases, it means that people are trading. They're trading to something else. They're trading up maybe. So rather than buying Asda Smart Price, they're buying Asda Chosen by You range. Okay, and if your income decreases, you might think, well, why would I buy more of this product? Because surely I'm a little bit poorer now. But it's because you're trading away from something else. You're switching away from some other product. Maybe you're switching away from Asda Chosen by You to more the value or the no frills or whatever the Asda range is called. Okay, so just a summary there. If YED is above 1, so it begins with 1 point something, 2 point something, 3 point something, whatever, it's elastic, so it's sensitive to a change, quantity demanded, therefore it's sensitive to a change in income. If it's below 1, so it starts with 0 point something, it's inelastic, so the quantity demanded is insensitive to a change in income. If your YED figure is negative, it means you've got an inferior product. If your YED figure is positive, it means you've got a normal product. So the quantity demanded is behaving in a normal way to a change in income. Okay, so this is from the textbook, but why is it important for businesses to understand YED? Because so far it's all very interesting, but you know, who cares really? Well, in the long run, countries all over the world, in the long run, they tend to get richer and they tend to get better at doing what they're doing. And that means that people's incomes increase on the whole in the long run. You know, if you think about what it would have been like living 100 years ago in the UK, the average income would have been a lot less. Okay, so as incomes on the whole, on average, increase over the long run, you'd probably want YED products, not even probably, you do want YED, you want products with a YED figure that is positive, because that means it's a normal good. So as incomes increase, demand for those products are going to increase as well over time. However, in a recession, firms may want to have a larger range of inferior goods, because in a recession, that means that incomes are falling, and so the demand for inferior products is going to increase. So your YED figure, you probably want it to be negative, and that is why over the last 5 years we've seen greater ranges of your budget ranges in supermarkets, and definitely the increase in kind of the number of Aldi and Lidl stores as well. YED being elastic, and just a note here, students sometimes get a little bit confused. They think if it's elastic, it's normal. If it's inelastic, it's inferior. That is wrong. That's completely wrong. You can have an elastic figure that's normal or inferior. You could have an inelastic figure that's normal or inferior. But YED being elastic means that it's sensitive to an income change. So if you've got a positive YED, so it's a normal good, it's probably a luxury product that you've got there. So as your income increases, it produces a greater change in the quantity demanded. But if your income decreases, you can cut that product out as a luxury. Whereas if YED is inelastic, it probably means it's a necessity. So no matter how much my income increases or decreases, there's certain things I'm always going to need. I may cut back on a little bit, but I'm still going to kind of purchase them. But even if my income goes up, I'm not going to eat kind of double the amount of oranges or double the amount of bananas. I'm just going to kind of probably maybe increase my expenditure a little bit. I might buy organic, for example, but I'm not going to double the amount of bananas I eat just because my income doubles. Okay, so let's have a nice look at a question, or a look at a nice question. So define the term income elasticity of demand for 2 marks. Me, personally, I would just write in the equation there. You can still get the 2 marks with the equation. If we look at the case study, the recession has had different effects on fast food chains in different countries. In the USA, where average incomes fell by 2% in 2009, sales of fast food showed no change in their 2008 level. In some markets, sales of fast food dropped in 2009. This was so in Japan, where sales fell 2% at a time when incomes fell by 1%. Okay, so it's kind of calculator, get out your calculator time for this one. So compare the income elasticity of demand for fast food in the USA and Japan in 2009. Okay, so for 4 marks. So we know that there was 0% change in the quantity demanded in the USA, but incomes fell by 2%, so that's a minus 2. So 0 divided by minus 2, which comes out as 0. So you get some marks for that calculation. And then in Japan, sales fell 2%, so -2, divided by -1, and we get 2. Okay, and that's a positive 2. So what can we tell? What can we compare the USA figure to the Japan figure? Well, 2 being positive in the YED figure for Japan for fast food suggests that it's a normal product, so we can get a mark for that. And because it begins with an integer, it means that it's elastic as well. So that means that the demand for these products are sensitive to a change in income, which suggests that in Japan, sales of fast food were considered luxury products or something that people can do without, which makes sense. You know, if your income falls, you can probably do without those McDonald's or Burger Kings or any other fast food. Whereas the figure for the USA is a little bit different because it's coming out as a 0, and so that means that it's actually completely inelastic. So there's no change in the. I mean, it's extraordinary that you get this this figure coming out. So no change in the quantity demanded after a 2% fall in income. So it suggests that people, so it's perfectly inelastic, but it suggests that people in America consider their fast food to be a necessity, an absolute essential product for them. So very interesting, the difference in the cultures there. So here we go. Here's my answer there, and that's how the marks are distributed. So working out the calculations you get marks for, but also stating the effect on them, stating what those mean, the interpretation. Now, then you get the comment and question. So comment on the business significance of the figures that you have calculated. So how would a business use this type of information? So, you know, maybe if you're in Japan, you're thinking things like, okay, so we know our product's a luxury product or considered to be a luxury product. We know our product is sensitive to a change in income. We know that incomes are falling by 1%. What should we do? Maybe you want to bring out some more inferior products. So I'm not making a judgment on the quality of the product. I'm just saying products that maybe you buy more of when incomes are falling. So maybe those like value ranges. I think McDonald's kind of do those. Burgers or chips for £1, that kind of thing. So maybe they need to bring out more of those things. And then, you know, America, I don't know, laugh all the way to the bank maybe because incomes are falling, but there's no change in the demand. So maybe, I don't know, not worry about it so much. So I think the main lesson here for businesses to think about is that you know, they can look at their product ranges really in Japan because it is more worrying in Japan. But this is a comment on question, we can see, because it starts with comment on. So the other side of it is that we could say that, you know, where have these figures actually come from? Because I don't see a source of these figures. And so, you know, you can say, oh, well, the data, it's probably estimates, so the data is a little bit unreliable. You can bring in ceteris paribus, that lovely Latin word, which means other things remain equal. Like, do we know that incomes falling have caused that 2% fall in the quantity demanded in Japan? You know, we don't know that there hasn't been a negative news story or negative press about it. So it could be other things affecting this change. It could be other things, meaning that there's no change in the USA. Maybe more celebrity endorsements or more advertisements have caused that. Okay, and also over the long run, we could say that we would expect it to become a little bit more elastic over the long run. But you know, some interesting figures there. Okay, so USA, here are my answers that put in: completely insensitive to change in income. Recession doesn't affect them. seen possibly as a necessity. So tick, 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 tick. Only a maximum of 4 here. But Japan, relatively sensitive to change in income, viewed as more of a luxury, maybe swap to sell an inferior goods. But you can also I would bring in the questions about the reliability of the data. So define income elasticity of demand, percentage change in quantity demanded over percentage change in income, calculate YED, interpret the YED figures. So there's 2 things that you can say about YED figures. You can either say, is it elastic or is it inelastic, or is it normal or is it an inferior good, and then discuss the relevance. You're really looking at the product ranges. You're looking at, are incomes increasing or decreasing, and am I selling the right product for the stage of the economic cycle?